But Simon, why is advertising still so much of a boys' club?
I would sort of start by looking at that question and go, actually, what specifically do we mean by a boys' club? Why is advertising still a boys' club? Because the sense that I get from it is that it suggests that advertising is dominated by and led by men, and that men don't want to let females or other genders into the club. And I would challenge that is not the case. If that is what we mean by boys' club, that it's a bunch of guys who don't want to let women into the industry, I strongly challenge that. And I challenge that from the position of having been now on 3 independent agency leadership teams over the space of 15 to 20 years, and actually redressing the gender balance across the agency has been a priority for all 3 of those teams. So, and there's been men and women on those leadership teams. So it's definitely not a club that's trying to exclude people. The issue, because in all of those agencies we've been trying to get more females, particularly in creative and into creative leadership. The issue is actually the availability of the talent. And so, and there is clearly an issue. There is clearly an issue at that level. So we really need to be looking to solutions at a grassroots level of how to attract people in, and then how to grow and evolve female talent, so that when these leadership teams, and I know those teams I've been on are not, that's not the exception. I know that there's agencies, bigger agencies with official quotas, and so it's more about how do we attract and train talent to bring that gender balance up, which in the current actual industry climate is very difficult. It's very difficult because there's actually not enough jobs for the people who want to work in the industry. So it's a very tricky one to address.
Do you think? I mean, I think if we look at people graduating, actually there is quite a lot of grassroots talent, or at least people coming into the industry. Do you think some of the expectations of how an agency works and the kind of relentlessness of it all actually is what affects the ability to give people roles when, we're still in an age where the likelihood is that the mum will be the one that stays at home with the kids, or needs more flexibility in her role? Do you see that changing? Do we need to actually look at that and make that more of a priority as well?
That's a really good question, and I suppose again for those businesses that I have been on the leadership team on, we have massively, and I've seen an incredible evolution, and for the better in the flexibility and the opportunities afforded to working mums and dads. Very importantly, I mean, this is a thing that I've seen. I've got a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old. Back in my day, it was I had 1 week's paternity leave, and then I was back in the job. And I've been extremely buoyed to see in more recent years at least half a dozen senior creative men being fathers for the first time, where they've actually taken on primary carer duties and had absolutely no issue whatsoever taking a year or even 18 months to be the primary carer whilst their partner goes to work. So certainly my perception of the agencies that I've been working in and leading is that things have evolved very, very much for the better. And in a strange way, COVID really helped that we got much more used to flexible working, work from home arrangements and what have you. But I mean, at a societal level, having parent there to be with to be with their children is of huge importance. And so certainly for me and the leadership teams I operate on, that is a priority also at a business level.
Yeah, great. Amy, it'd be good to get your perspective on this, but from a slightly different angle, which is how can someone deal with, I guess, feeling not included, right? I mean, I think there's an element of this question which is like, oh, there's a club and I'm not in it. So how can you kind of reconcile sometimes that feeling with like, I need to find belonging, or, I'm comfortable with actually being set on the outside and I'll fight my way in? Or
so I guess when sort of Simon was describing your experiences, Simon, and I was thinking, it's so lovely that you're a part of this community and this part of the industry that you can see these visual advocates and things happening even in the fabric of the agencies. I guess everyone's lived experience is different, and it's probably not as clear as yes or no, that if there is a club or not, and people's different perceptions and experiences as well. If you are finding yourself that maybe a person might be in a regional area, they might be working remote, they might be new, and unfortunately they might land themselves in a bit of a negative experience with maybe an agency or a small business that isn't as aligned as the ones that you're currently surrounding yourselves with. That, and also our gender diverse folk, our people of color. Myself, my dad is from South Africa, and he's biracial. So, but I myself, I have blue eyes, and I'm Caucasian and appearance and things like that. So there's a lot of intricacies that can happen through different people's lived experiences that we can see and notice. So I guess if you are finding yourself in a place where you're not included, I would encourage you to start advocating or creating those places of inclusion for yourself. So whether that be through your workplace or whether that be through external communities, like I know there's Creative Mornings, which is a really wonderful place. There's online communities. There are the Design Kids, all these sorts of places that you can meet and connect with people that maybe might be more aligned to your values or the way you like to work. Then say if your day-to-day job isn't really aligned with that and you are finding yourself being excluded, whether that is that leadership might be male-led, it might be that you are new in a workplace and the rest of the workplace might have been there for a really long time, and so coming in, you're quite new and you don't have those relationships as well. So I look at seeing how you can start to cultivate that yourself. It's lovely when we can turn to our workplaces and we do have that alignment, but don't be afraid to, I guess, advocate and cultivate that for yourself. And that can also be even through, like we were talking about, professional development pathways for people who identify as female or maybe even gender diverse. And so finding if there are opportunities like that. If not, talking to, if it's leadership in organizations, if it's peak bodies, if it's even community groups about, do they know of any, or who are the program developers or the funders of these spaces that we can advocate and have conversations with and explore that a little bit more yourself. I do acknowledge that, currently economically it can be challenging for particularly, single agencies or organizations to be doing that stuff as well as surviving, which we're sort of in the middle of doing. It's been quite a turbulent few months of 2024. So I do acknowledge that, but I do say that even the little sort of things can change how your lived experience can change as well.
Excellent. All right. Yeah.
Just add one more thing, and it relates to the It relates to the turbulence in the industry. In that, I think the reality is that advertising, as it has been for the last sort of 50 years, is pretty much actually already no more, and the industry is in a massive state of flux. In a sense, it's shrinking down. It's in total transformation. And so what the industry has been no longer has to be what it becomes and what it is. And so this is a bold sort of call out, and it's very much easier to say and much harder to do. But I think in this current climate, with an industry that needs desperately to reinvent itself, it is actually a brilliant opportunity for super ambitious people of all gender. But this is the time to come in and reshape the industry as we want it. So it's really tough, no bones about it. But if ever there was a time to reshape, rebuild an industry as we want it, it's now. So let's give it a go.
It definitely is. Like, we've always talked, haven't we, about, you know, this industry is ever changing, but this does feel like quite an inflection point right now. I wonder where this question came from. You know, like, we still see those lists, right? Like there was the campaign brief list a few months ago with, you know, here are all the top creatives in Australia, and, you know, they all happen to be men. And I think there's a difference between what we're seeing in media and what perhaps agencies are actively trying to do as well. And I think it's one of those cases of, like, you've got to go and try and find the places that are actively doing it. And I don't think they're as hard to find as they used to be. And I think that probably is one of the big things that is changing. And, you know, I'm amazed how much space and time that sometimes some of those articles and lists take up. And I'm not sure actually how much reach and how much presence that they actually deliver. So things are changing. It still doesn't mean we give up, doesn't mean we don't stop working on it all. But I think there's a chance to go try and find your right place, and you'll see that perhaps that club isn't quite as strong or as existent as perhaps you thought.